Hi guys, and welcome back to another DrAce video, and today we're going to be playing MotoGP 21. It's time for the Japanese GP of the Twin Ring Motegi circuit for Moto 3. So we're here in free practice, doing what we can here in a very difficult track. I'm going to say it's a very difficult track because I have never had a great track record here in Motegi. Things have always seemed to have gone wrong when I've played the MotoGP career mode, and considering the championship is as close as it is right now, I want to make sure that we have the best possible outcome yet, but it's going to be a challenging one. I'm going to tell you that straight away off the bat. I'm prepared already for a bad result, but it's going to be pretty much making the most out of a bad situation. We'll call it damage limitations. I know I'm probably talking a bit negative about this track already, but it's just past experience, and already up into Sector 1 we're 10th down on the current fastest lap time, which is a 2:02.081 from championship protagonist Darren Binder. Of course, we are still the championship leader, but not by as much as we would want. Misano obviously was a very crucial race for us. I am about to spoil the results for it if you haven't seen it quite yet. But of course, winning in Misano was absolutely huge for the championship challenge. Rodrigo looks to have fallen off the wayside a bit. His championship challenge may well be over, and it might just simply be between DrAce, Matt Grant, and Darren Binder. It's going to be a very challenging one, and considering we've only got a couple of rounds left to go, the tension is real. I can't wait to see what happens in these next couple of races, and you know what? I'm expecting exactly what we've had so far this season, and that is a tremendous amount of overtakes, an amazing amount of competitiveness, and just awesome general entertaining content. So I can't wait. I'll be continuing onwards, of course, doing everything I can to make sure it's the best what we can do. But right now we need to focus on the qualifying and practice sessions, and currently in practice we have gone wide into the 90 degrees corner, somehow managed to stay on board the motorcycle and keep it in bounds as we got onto the left hand side, trying to finish this lap promptly so I can get rid of that racing line. Of course, I'm not a fan of the racing line. I've mentioned this many times before, and I've mentioned it again. So fingers crossed when we cross the line in a moment's time we'll no longer see the racing line, so I can then focus on the actual race itself. So we're a second ahead of Darren Binder as we make massive contact with Carlos Tatai as he come out of the pits there, a little bit too aggressive, bumping into the World Championship leader. Not a great start for Carlos Tatai this season. Expected him to see him up there with their battling with the rest of us, but unfortunately for him, not really been there. And the same can be said about his teammate Nico Antonelli. He's not really featured up there in the top 10 much as Carlos Tatai just falls down behind us, I think. The yellow flags are out, but of course we've already passed him, so it's not going to impede our progress. Up by 0.2 of a second right now into Sector 1. Quite pleased with our performance. Of course, still utilising power setting 1, so if you aren't aware of why we're using power setting 1, this is the challenge that I'm doing currently, as we currently invalidate that lap. That is a bit of a disappointment, but we'll still continue the lap nonetheless, because it could be a good result regardless of the invalidated lap. And it's more so just for our own personal sort of lap times to see how we would have been regardless of the invalidation or not. But yes, speaking of Nico Antonelli, there's been quite a lot of riders who have disappointed this season in Moto 3 career mode, and also some riders that have really shined. It's been a very interesting season, I'll be honest with you, and I'm talking like it's almost over, but it really isn't. We've still got plenty of rounds left to go. I think 4 rounds as of yet. I do believe so, round 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, that's 5. So we're going to be very busy these next couple of rounds, and I can't wait for it. I really can't. So we did lose a bit of time going into Sector 3, 8.5 of a second, so it's probably not going to be any improvement for us, regardless of the invalidation or not. So we'll now go into the very difficult right-hander here, the 90 degrees corner. Keep an eye on the left-hand side of your screen there. Darren Binder, Sergio Garcia, and teammate Adrian Fernandez, all on fast sectors right now for Sector 1 and 2. Darren Binder with 2 red sectors, and Sergio Garcia can say the same. As Dennis Onchu has now moved himself up to 6th place. As we have been dethroned from the top spot, Gabriel Rodrigo takes over at the front with a 2-minute 8.67. I did think we were looking quite pretty up there with that second gap, but it seemed to be that nobody had really put in those fast lap times. Now Pedro Acosta sits pretty at the top with a 2-minute 5.06. Keeping an eye on Darren Binder's time on the left-hand side, that's another 3rd sector of red helmet for him. There's Yuki Kuni, that's the first time we've seen him in the top 5 so far this season. As Jamal Massey now moves up to the top spot with a 2-minute 2.06, and that is actually quicker than Darren Binder's time. Therefore, Darren Binder only getting a 3 personal best sectors rather than the red helmets. Well, speaking of the red helmets, Grant goes fastest into Sector 1, up by 1.5 tenths, up by 0.5 of a second to our personal best. but a tenth ahead of Jam and Masia will put Grant up into the top positions if we can continue the pace going into the rest of this lap. So Sergio Garcia puts himself second place, a great job for the man on board the Gas on the Aspar team. Now Darren Binder puts himself second, but still no one able to kick off Jam and Masia from their pole position spot, or at least top spot for free practice. Of course, we'll be going for the rubles and the pole position later on as we get closer and closer towards the qualifying session, but right now we need to focus on this particular lap because this is a pretty dandy lap if we can continue this way. We're about a tenth and a bit behind Gabriel Rodrigo, but almost 8/10 of a second behind Jam and Masia, who's currently in the top spot. Now onto the right hand side for the hairpin curve coming out of turn 10. Great acceleration there, up by 2.5 of a second. So Grant will be looking to get himself into top spot as Kai Totoba announces himself up to the top 6 positions. As we now brake very, very hard for the 90 degrees corner. Used a lot of rear brake there, basically stopped both tyres so they weren't moving at all. We're up by 8.5 of a second compared to our personal best. We're going to be going into the final couple of corners now for turn 13 and turn 14, the victory corner, and now full acceleration to try and get across the line in the top spot. Can we do it? Charging towards the line, and we'll get, a personal best sector, 99,000th of a second off the pace from Jam and Masia, so that is a 2-minute 3:05 for us. Darren Binder 34,000th of a second, just ahead of us on track right now. So we'll do one more lap, barring any catastrophe, and then we'll be moving on to the qualifying session. So going into turn 3, hard on the front brake, going to be taking a tight line here as we're going to get the bike sideways. Ooh, just barely survived. So Jam and Masia does take top spot ahead of Darren Binder and Matt Grant. Mino Garcia Acosta, John McPhee Toba and Gabriel Rodrigo are your top 9 as things stand. So the heavens have opened for qualifying 2. We have a big job on our hands right now. The wet has not suited Grant very well this season, so it's going to be a very tough one. The riders from Q1 are joining us now. Dennis Foggia, Denison Chu, Ethan Guevara and Ryusi Yamanaka up there into qualifying 2. So we're already poised and ready for a difficult qualifying session. We know the wet doesn't suit Grant very well, but he is the World Championship leader and he has 8 minutes to tackle this track and give it 120%, just like the AI that we're going up against. So we could have waited a little bit longer and potentially gone for a more drier track. But I don't think this track is going to dry very well. It's already been about 8 minutes and nothing has really dried. It's still very, very damp. We'll be taking our time, try and chuck in a lap time just to understand where our pace is going to be and to get a feel for the wet. Because it's been very rare the wet has arrived this season. We might have had it in a few practice sessions or occasionally a qualifying session, but the actual wet weather races have not come very, very often. Which is odd because I've seen other YouTubers, I think even Robbo says that way too many wet weather races for him. Thankfully for us, not so many. I don't mind a good wet weather race, but I don't think the action is just quite as good compared to when it's slick and dry. 130R to turn 6 navigated quite nicely there. Probably could have used a bit more speed, but regardless, not too bad. Being down 7/10 of a second to Darren Binder right now is not the end of the world, as we unfortunately invalidate that lap by touching the white line. Something I tend to do quite often because I like to use all of the track. I don't like to just use a little bit or the middle. I like to use all of it. And I mean all of it. Every single bit of inch of tarmac is what I like to use because of course that's the best way to do in motorbike games. Coming out of the corners, you want to make sure that you're keeping the front tyres straight and parallel as much as you can, especially coming out of corners. So sometimes that does require for you to sort of pick the bike up slowly rather than just picking it up abruptly and then trying to put the power on. So going into Sector 3, of course, we have invalidated this lap, so it doesn't really matter, but we did have 2 personal best sectors, which obviously makes sense, because we haven't set a lap yet. Jam and Masia, Pedro Acosta, both identical in personal best sectors and fastest sectors currently as it stands. Tatsuki Suzuki's up there in 3rd place, and Andrea Mino hanging behind Darren Binder in 2nd place. So 13 and 14 to be navigated. Victory Corner is certainly not Victory Corner for us right yet, but who knows what's going to happen with 5.5 minutes remaining of this session. So Darren Binder, fastest man right now, and is also going faster with a very, very fast Sector 1 time. We're sort of braking quite gingerly and gently into Turn 1, coming on the exit for Turn 2. Bit of a slide there. Really struggling to get the power on here on board this Husqvarna. The wet weather has really been our downfall this season. If we need somewhere to improve, it's definitely in the wet. I do believe we did alright in 1 or 2 wet weather sort of qualifiers, but not this one today. It's looking a bit bleak, I'll be honest with you. And I'm seeing so many red sectors right now on the left-hand side of the screen, and only an orange one for us right now. We're down by 2.5 tenths of a second. It's not too bad. It could be potentially a top 10 finish. That's where we'll be aiming for. Damage limitations, of course. And then for the race itself, we just have to make sure we get the best start possible and try and fight our way through the pack. So Pedro Acosta is now the fastest man on the track right now, and he's just gone down, so a bit of a commentary curse jumping upon him there and making him crash. He said a 2:05.704 just moments ago for the Red Bull KTM IO rider. Now, speaking of the KTM team, Pedro Acosta, Jama Massi and Denison Chu, all three riders on the Red Bull KTMs, and now into the top spots. The top three is a lockout for the KTMs, so that's a great job for them. Not seeing many Hondas up there, to be honest with you. Gabriel Rodrigo just a bit further ahead of us. He's in 10th place, but he could well and truly put himself top with that pace there. And Darren Binder puts the Honda on the top spot, a 2:05.202 for the South African. Brilliant job, but we did lose Gabriel Rodrigo's time temporarily. He was on very fast sectors and it just seemed to have disappeared. Not sure if he's still on that or if something's wrong with the timing, but still a lot to shout about for the Hondas, such as Rodrigo and Darren Binder. You know they're going to be getting faster and faster as this session continues, as the track begins to dry out. But the same cannot be said for the World Championship leader on board the Husqvarna right now. Not seeing a single Husqvarna up there in the top 10. Difficult stuff for us, and we were down by a whole second into Sector 3, and I don't believe we're going to pick up a second here into Sector 4. We are about to come over the line in a moment, so fingers crossed this is enough to get us at least onto the third row. Starting anywhere behind the third row is going to be difficult, and there we do get onto the third row. Not that bad really when you think about it, as that is the team's objective for every single race this season, to get onto the third row. Of course, we've done way better than that. I think we've had about 9 or 10 pole positions to our name this season, so we have been extremely good in qualifying and also equally good in the races. So currently 0.3 of a second up on our personal best time. It's actually increasing quite a lot. It's now up to 0.4 of a second. Getting a little bit out of shape on the rumble strip there, but we've still got the speed, we've still got the drive. Now getting close to the rumble strip. Actually that's a red sector for us. I'm pleased with that one. Was not expecting to see a single red sector, but Sector 1 has been navigated quite well for the Husqvarna man. As we're now going to turn 5, a little bit gentle on the brakes there, making sure we don't touch the rumble strip, because when the rumble strips are wet, it can be very difficult to ride upon them. So going on to the right hand side for the 130R for turn 6, and then we'll be braking on an angle for turn 7, as we did lose 0.2 of a second to Darren Binder's time, but to be within 0.2 of a second in wet qualifying conditions, I'm very pleased with that. Ryusuke Yamanaka ahead of us. He is hoping to continue his streak so far and get back onto the top 6 positions like he did last time out in Misano. Of course, he has really come alive towards the end of the season. Not really seen anything of him at all this season, but it's good to see sort of boosting his confidence and getting better and better for the car expert Prustal GP rider. Now going into the right-hand side for the hairpin curve. Up by 0.6 of a second to our personal best. We'll take a look at the sector time any moments now, and it's not looking too pretty. We lost half a second into Sector 3 alone, so we will not be challenging Darren Binder, Massia, or even Sergio Garcia's time, but this could increase to potentially 6th or 7th place. We'll see what we can do going into the 90-degree corner. A little bit out of shape on the rear there, but thankfully still moving at the correct amount of speed. Up by 0.8 of a second now compared to our personal best, so great job for Grant for actually improving in the session. Of course it makes sense because the track is drying and we are getting a little bit more confidence and sort of just getting into the thick of things. We'll continue to push forward as much as we can and get some more lap times done, but if we go across the line, we lost 0.4 of a second and puts Grant up into 2nd place right behind Darren Binder. That is a magnificent qualifying if we can maintain this. Great job for the man who's leading the World Championship right now by the thinnest of margins. So we will have one more lap to try and dethrone Darren Binder from the top spot. Of course, he is on provisional pole right now, but he is setting 2 very fast sectors. And also behind, I'm a little bit concerned regarding Pedro Acosta and Denison Chu. Both 2 men on 3 fastest sector times, or personal best sector times for themselves. This could well and truly dethrone us from the front row. Of course, starting at the front row would be a dream come true, especially here in Motegi, a track I tend to struggle with, but only down by 0.1 of a second compared to our previous best, which is not too bad. We did really well into Sector 2 last time, and we did okay in Sector 3, but we managed to really claw it back into Sector 4. So just 0.2 of a second behind Darren Binder right now as things stand, as Kaija Toba is also in a personal best sector right behind us in 4th place. Pedro Acosta's jumped into the pit, so that's it. Session over for him. Denison Chu wasn't able to improve his lap time either, as we have Ethan Guevara just ahead of us on track. If we can maybe pinch a bit of slipstream, this could be a pole position. who knows what can happen in this final lap here for us. Going into the difficult hairpin curve for turn 10, up by 0.4 of a second is a personal best sector for us. Sector 3 times to come up any moment now. Down by 1/10.5 as Gabriel Rodrigo now goes up to the top. 2:04.839 for the Argentine, and Dennis Foggia pinches second place ahead of Darren Binder. I don't think Darren Binder's going to actually be able to fight back. I think it might be session over for the South African. Third place, and Grant is still in 4th place right now, up by 0.3 of a second compared to our personal best. It's not going to be good enough to dethrone Gabriel Rodrigo, I don't think, but we'll try our best going into the victory corner. Giving it 120% now. Full acceleration towards the line. We did lose a little bit of time, but we should improve by about 1/10 and a bit. And across the line we go. 4th place. We stay in 4th place. I'm not too mad at that, to be honest with you, though. 4th place in treacherous conditions. Sign me up for that one. Gabriel Rodrigo starts from pole position. Dennis Foggia and Darren Binder on the front row, with Grant Massier and Toba. Garcia, Acosta and Antonelli, who I mentioned earlier, is in 9th place. So guys, 8 PM tonight will be the Grand Prix, so make sure you're there. 8 PM GMT, that is, of course, so it's British summertime. But guys, upon that note, thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, like, comment and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be alerted to every single DrAce upload. And upon that note, guys, thanks for watching, and ciao for now. Oh hi, didn't quite see you there. Good to see you're still here. If this video didn't quite set your appetite, then why not watch some more DrAce content by clicking the video shown on screen now. Furthermore, if you would like to follow me on social media, you can do so now, with the links down in the description. Consider subscribing so you don't miss a single DrAce video.